Senate will come back to order. Are you going to make the... I recognize the Majority Leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we table the remaining bills on the rule calendar.
Majority Leader has moved that we table the remaining bills. The Senate's working hard, and I'm just wondering how much harder we need to work. Is there objection? That objection, consider them tabled. Recognize the Rules Chairman for what purpose you rise?
I'd like to make a motion that we table all remaining resolutions as well.
All right. Resolutions. Without objection, your motion passes, Senator. All right, we're going to do some special actions right now, some agrees and disagrees, and so the Secretary is going to get those ready, and so just stand by. All right, Senate, come back to order now. And I recognize the blueberry cobbler man himself, the senator from the 8th. That cobbler was good now.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to do like our rules chairman does. Mr. President,
All right.
I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 103.
The senator from the 8th has agreed to the House substitute on Senate Bill 103. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 103, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 12 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to disposition of unclaimed property so as to provide for the handling of certain wills, to provide for definitions, to provide for administrative expenses of the commissioner, to provide for a claimant's designated representative, to provide for appeals, The House offers the following substitute to 103. A bill to be titled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 12 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to disposition of unclaimed property so as to provide for the handling of certain wills and trusts, to provide for definitions, to revise provisions relating to the disposition of unclaimed property, to revise provisions regarding to the filing of claims relating to unclaimed property, to provide for forms, to provide for addendum, to provide for maintenance and retention of records, to provide for administrative expenses. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Just so everyone knows, all these amendments on these agrees and disagrees are in your book under the table portion of your book. So there are a lot of pages in there, Senator. You are correct. And I recognize the senator from the 8th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. You all may remember you voted on this bill previously. It passed out of the House. They made a few changes at the request of the Department of Revenue. All it does, it adds a few more licensure requirements, adds a process for conflicting claims, and standardized agreements with DOR. So nothing major, but something at the request of our friends at DOR. And I'll be glad to take any questions, or I'll yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for your favorable consideration.
The senator from the 8th has moved that we agree to the House's substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, is there any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none, all those in favor of SB 103 will vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the House's substitute, to Senate Bill 103, the yeas are 43, the nays are 4, and this has passed. Senator from the 44th, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 12th.
Without objection, the senator from the 12th is excused. Recognize the senator from the 25th for a motion on SB 129.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 129.
Senator from the 25th has moved that the Senate agree to House substitute on Senate Bill 129. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 129, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to primaries and elections generally, so as to provide for time off for employees to advance vote. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 129, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to primaries and elections generally, so as to revise provisions related to performance review boards, to revise the language that must be used on absentee ballot applications distributed by persons or entities, to provide for time off for employees to advance vote. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 25th to speak to the bill. Hey, Billy, you're on deck. You're on deck. You're on deck. After him, man.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a good housekeeping bill. It just gives people time to take off during early voting to go vote. This is mutually agreeable between the employer and the employee, and no questions, I'll yield the well. This is one of those that we want to keep up, easy to vote, hard to cheat. I ask for your favorable consideration.
You do
Thank
you do have a question, but you're welcome to yield the well at the same time. You will. Senator's yielded the well. Senator from the 4th, are you asking to speak, or are you just preparing yourself for the next time up? We're not ready for that, Senator. Your light's on, so I was just making sure you're not asking a question. All right. He waves. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Is there objection to the House substitute to Senate Bill 129? Hearing none, all those in favor of the House substitute to Senate Bill 129 will vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 3, and so this body has agreed to the House's substitute on SB 129. I recognize the senator from the 4th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to a House substitute to Senate Bill 66.
The senator from the 4th has moved to agree to the House substitute on SB 66. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 66, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the number of judges of superior courts, so as to provide for an additional judge of the superior courts of the Atlantic Judicial Circuit. That completes the order, Mr. President. Oh, sorry. Yep. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 66, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the number of judges of superior courts, so as to provide for an additional judge of the superior courts of the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. to provide for the appointment of such additional judge by the governor, to provide for the election of successors to the additional judge initially appointed. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 4th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only change that was made in this, we passed this bill in this chamber, was the judgeship was going to be effective July 1, and because of funding and timing, we actually changed, the House changed the date to January 1 of 24, and we agree with the change. Mr. President, if no questions, I yield the will.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hearing none. Is there objection to the House's substitute on Senate Bill 66? Chair hearing none. All those in favor of the motion will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 53 and nays are 0, and this motion has prevailed. Senator from the 41st, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 22nd.
Without objection, the senator from the 22nd is excused. Recognize the senator from the 31st for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 93.
Senators move that the Senate agree to House substitute to Senate Bill 93. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 93, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 29 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to information technology so as to restrict the use of certain social media platforms on state equipment. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 93, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 29 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to information technology so as to restrict the use of certain social media platforms on state equipment, to provide for definitions, to prohibit a state employee or student from installing, using, or visiting a social media platform that is controlled or influenced by a foreign adversary on state equipment. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 31st, the caucus leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. This one's real simple. Senate Bill 93, we passed out of this body, I believe, unanimously. The House made some minor changes with some semicolons and commas, just some grammatical stuff. No substantive changes. This is also known as the TikTok bill, and so hopefully we will see the federal government and other states follow Georgia's lead, just like Georgia keeps leading the country. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well if there's no questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Senator from the 26th, Senator from the 26th, are you asking to speak? You wave? All right. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Any senator object to the position? Chair hears none. All those in favor of the motion that the Senate agree to House substitute on Senate Bill 93 will vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0, and this motion has prevailed. I recognize the senator from the 4th. On Bill H, he'll have to move. Senator.
There you go. Mr. President, I ask that HB 538 be raised from the table.
Senator has moved that HB 538 be taken from the table. Is there objection? Without objection, Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 538, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to provide for the Georgia Early Literacy Act, to require the State Board of Education to approve high-quality instructional materials to be used for teaching students in kindergarten through 3rd grade, to provide for definitions. The Committee of the Senate on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th Chairman. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to House Bill 538, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to education so as to provide for the Georgia Early Literacy Act, to require the Department of Early Care and Learning to provide for developmentally appropriate evidence-based literary instruction training requirements for certain child care providers. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 4th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is an honor to be here today, and this is a bill that we've been in the House working on real hard with the House, and as y'all know, we passed Senate Bill 211 here a few weeks ago, and as I stated a few days ago, I think one of the key words coming out of this whole session for the House and Senate is literacy, or more important, illiteracy. So we work very closely with Representative Wade, Representative Ballard, Representative Evans, and the governor's office on this, on 538, House Bill 538, and also Senate Bill 211. And I'm very proud of our work in the Senate and the efforts around literacy this session, and we appreciate the bipartisan efforts and collaboration with the governor's office and the House. Today, the House has taken up Senate Bill 211, which we passed unanimously from this body. It forms the Georgia Literacy Council. This Bill 538 complements Senate Bill 211. Working in partnership with their efforts, I bring before you the House Bill 538 called the Georgia Early Literacy Act. What this bill does, it defines educational literacy skills, high-quality instruction manuals, and the science for reading as evidence-based practices required for our students. This legislation also sets a specific framework for implementation for the Department of Early Care and Learning, State Board of Education, Department of Education Professional Standards Commission, and our local school systems. Section 2 in the bill refers to the decal requirements for implementing evidence-based professional development for early learning required by teachers by July 1, 2025, and this bill has specific dates in it. Starting on line 92, brief overview of the framework. State Board with the Department of Education and GOSA to set uniform grade appropriate metrics for measuring literacy. State Board will approve high-quality instruction materials. State Board and Department will approve universal reading screeners to be used by schools by July 1, 24. The Department of Education, working with the University System of Georgia and the Professional Standards Commission, will approve professional development programs for K through 3 teachers. We'll also provide technical assistance and implement training. If you'll see on line 159, local boards of education beginning in August 24 will use high-quality instruction materials for K through 3. You see, this bill has a lot to do with K through 3. Line 199 shall implement for public school system tiered reading intervention plans for students K through 3. Beginning in July 1, 25, Georgia assessment for certification of teachers or any other assessment required by Professional Standards Commission shall be aligned with developmentally approved evidence-based literacy instruction. As you can tell, this legislation provides for the implementation of important evidence-based practices, and I appreciate how our Senate Bill 211 set us up, the Georgia Literacy Council, to oversee and ensure that these policies are working. The council will also make important recommendations for investments and funding needed to sustain these efforts. I am confident we are moving in the right direction needed so that all of our children will learn how to read. Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions.
You do have a question, Senator. Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you may have mentioned this, and if you did, I missed it, so I apologize. Can you give me an update on the status of SB 211 in the other chamber?
Yes, ma'am. As I understand it, SB 211, Representative Ballard's in the back right here now, and if she'll give me a nod, it has been passed. It's been passed in the House, correct? Oh,
Up today, she said. With
Oh,
the
today
response
is
was
still
it's
bad.
up today.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
we certainly look forward to the House passing SB 211, don't we, Mr. Chairman?
yeah, we sure do. Thank you, ma'am.
for your work, and thank you to the representative.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. And, Mr. President, I yield to will.
We have a late coming amendment here. Secretary, read the caption.
Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st offers the following amendment. Amend Senate Education and Youth Committee substitute to House Bill 538 by replacing line 272 with the following. In Code Section 20-2-206, provided, however, that the Commission's standards and procedures consider for in-state certification nationally accredited teacher certification programs outside of this state which are state-sponsored and meet the academic accreditation and certification requirements of the Commission and. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 31st to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize for the last minute amendment. Basically what this amendment does is simply requires consideration of any nationally accredited educator prep program in the state. It meets the Georgia academic operations standards established by the PSC. We already went through the work that the senator from the 4th talked about this bill, but as we talk about workforce shortages and expanding the teacher pipeline, this amendment will add to that. Mr. President, I will yield the will.
Senator is yielded. Does any of the senators wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of Amendment 1 from the senator from the 31st. Is there objection to the adoption of Amendment 1? Without objection, Amendment 1 is adopted. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize the senator from the 27th for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that House Resolution 256 be lifted from the table.
The senators move that House Resolution 256 be lifted from the table. Secretary, read the caption.
House Resolution 256, a resolution honoring the life of Miss Sophia Ruth Fisher and dedicating an interchange in her memory. The Committee of the Senate on Transportation recommends that this resolution do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal, the 27th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to House Resolution 256. A resolution dedicating certain portions of the state highway system and for other purposes. Whereas Miss Sophia Ruth Fisher was born on May 11, 2000 in Tifton, Georgia, the fourth child following 3 brothers. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 27th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is the annual road naming bill. My understanding is we have a friendly amendment coming from the senator from the 44th as well. Should be on your desks in a second. We will send this to the House. They have some additions that will come back. We will agree. I've dutifully studied all 347 lines of this piece of legislation. It's fantastic legislation. I ask for your favorable consideration of both this and the amendment. Thank you.
Senators yielded the well. We do have an amendment, and the Secretary will read the amendment, and hopefully it'll get around on your desk.
Senator Davenport of the 44th offers the following amendment. Amend the Senate Committee on Transportation substitute to H.R. 256 by inserting between lines 289 and 290 the following. Whereas Miss Minnie Melton Saxton was born in Atlanta, Georgia, the youngest of 12 children to Reverend and Miss Erin P. Melton. And whereas a pioneer resident of the South Atlanta community, Miss Saxton graduated from Clark College in 1905, where she also later taught. And whereas a woman of deep and abiding faith, Miss Saxton was an active member of the South Atlanta United Methodist Church, representing the church in numerous capacities at local and national conferences. And whereas Miss Saxton's significant organizational and leadership talents, her remarkable patience and diplomacy, and her keen sense of vision were great assets when she organized the first Rosenwald School for Black children and spent 40 years ensuring quality education was provided. And whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that this remarkable and distinguished Georgian be recognized appropriately by dedicating a road in her memory. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 44th to speak to the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I offer amendment to this bill dedicating a portion of a street, Highway 54, in the name of Ms. Minnie Melton Saxton. And Mrs. Saxton was a 1905 graduate of Clark College. She taught there, and she also taught in one of the first schools, the Rosenwald schools across the South in Jonesboro. She was a principal of the Jonesboro Colored High School in the 1930s and 40s. And matter of fact, my mother's 96, and she was my mother principal before she went off to Clark College. So all her accomplishments are fantastic, and I think it's appropriate that we name this in her honor. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask for your support, senators, in this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senators yielded well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hearing none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hearing none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on amendment number 1. Is there objection to amendment number 1 authored by the senator from the 44th? Without objection, amendment number 1 is adopted. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the resolution by substitute. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of resolutions by substitute, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted by substitute. Recognize a senator from the 19th. You recognize a senator from the 17th, excuse me.
Mr. President, I move that House Bill 611 be lifted from the table.
Senator has moved that House Bill 611 be taken from the table. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 611, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 4 of Chapter 12 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to management of budgetary and financial affairs so as to provide for the disposition of state funds derived from certain legal judgments or settlements. The Committee of the Senate on Appropriations recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tillery of the 18th District Chairman. The Senate Committee of Appropriations offers the following substitute to House Bill 611, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 4 of Chapter 12 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to management of budgetary and financial affairs so as to provide for the disposition of all funds paid to the state from legal settlements, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 17th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. understand how you got me mixed up with the senator from the 19th. This bill came from Appropriations Committee, but it's actually a judiciary bill. I think it was sent to Appropriations because the senator from the 19th no longer serves on the Judiciary Committee. He wanted to get a couple legal bills in his committee this year. But all this bill is doing is it's being consistent and saying that any funds that are obtained by our state through any legal settlements will all flow through this body, through the process and go through our budgeting process. Of course, subjected to any terms of any orders or agreements that are made, but just make sure that money actually flows through us as a body that designates funds. With that, happy to answer any questions.
You do have a question, Senator. Senator from the 13th.
Sir, to you.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us why the senator from the 19th is not on judiciary anymore?
I'd rather not get into that in front of everybody, but thank you.
You have no more questions, Senator.
I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 611.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection for the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agree to a report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. All right, we're going to stand in recess for about 30 minutes. We're waiting on a few things that happen over across the hallway with our friends, so we're just going to stand in recess for about 30 minutes. And the senator from the 8th says he's got some peach cobbler or something back there for you. So, all right, stand at ease.